Okay, what we're working on today is a 1990 Chevy Astro van. It's got the, where's it at? It's a 4.3. It says it somewhere here, right there. 4.3 liter. And what we're doing, we're changing a water pump and one of the idler pulleys. And the water pump, where a good picture of this thing, is right here. The thing with the hose going to it, that's the water pump. And as you can see, to get to this, we're going to have to start taking some stuff off. We'll start by taking off the fan, these 4 nuts right here, which look like a ½ inch or 9/16 from up here. I can't really tell. We'll find out in a minute. I get the fan off and some of this other stuff. Got to get the belt off, which is going to be this right here. Looks like about a 3/4, 11/16, somewhere in there. We'll loosen that up, pull the belt off. I get all this taken off. We'll get back with you and give you a actual size of all the fasteners. All right, here we are. See you then. See, I got a lot of stuff out of the way. Upper rad hose is off. I got it tucked behind the windshield wiper. Upper fan shroud is off. That consists of 6 13mm headed bolts. I'll show you where they're at. 2 right here. And a little more light. And 2 right there. That one all the way in the back, and that one all the way in the front. Those are just alignment pins there. I got the fan and hub off. That's 4 13mm nuts. Okay, now we'll go take a look at the water pump. 4 15mm headed bolts. Where the hell are we at here? Oh, I'm lost on this camera. There's 2 there. Let me get a flashlight here so you can see a little bit better. There's a flashlight. Alright, now, there we go. There's 1 right there, and 1 directly below it, and then on the other side, they're hidden by this lower pulley, but right behind that pulley is the same setup. You got 2 bolts, 1 on top of each other. Then you got the lower radiator hose, which I'm just going to pull out right with the water pump. And you got your upper, where are we at here? There we go. Upper heater core hose right there. That's off, and it looks like I lost the hose clamp. And once I get the water pump out, we'll give it a good look over. Alright, I had to remove a pulley to get to the rest of the bolts here for the water pump, so now that it's easier to see, I thought I'd show you. There we go. There's the alternator. There's that. There's 1 right there. That's the upper one. And then there's the lower one right there. They're directly underneath the alternator. And right there, that's the pulley I removed. That's just an idler pulley. And back when we get the water pump off. Alright, let's take a look at what we got here. This is what you want to see whenever you clean up the mating surfaces between the water pump and the block. You want to see nice, clean, shiny metal. You don't want any gasket material left on. And that there is just discolorization of the block. But yeah, you don't want any gasket material left on. Get it cleaned up. Wire brush, scraper, whatever it takes. I use a 90-degree die grinder with a fine grit 3M pad. That works out real well. Let's go over, look at the water pump. That's a good idea. Anytime you're swapping out parts, stand back, take a look at them. Are they the same? Do they look the same? Do they line up with each other? Yes. And the same thing with these this one pulley I'm replacing. They're identical. I mean, they even have the same part number on them. Why he wants to replace it, I have no clue. This is the old one. It was just replaced. I mean, I have no clue why he wants to replace it. Bearings are still good. It just doesn't make any sense to me, but the customer's the boss. And that's it there for those water pumps. We'll get this one put back in. And oh, by the way, the bolt to remove the water, the 4 bolts to remove the water pump, 14 millimeter. Now, when I say 14 millimeter, I've mentioned this before, I mean the size of the head. That's the socket that fits on it. This size, I don't know what it is. Metric bolts are weird. I'm not good at telling what size the bolt is. The bolt to get the pulley off was a 13 millimeter. And we'll go back. We'll get the water pump put back in. And get you a shot of that and get you a shot of everything all done. For some reason, he didn't want to replace the cert belt. I mean, it looks good. I don't know how old it is. But, I mean, you got to get this far into it. Might as well do it anyhow. And another thing, I've only been at this for like 15 minutes. I mean, I'm literally, you know, it's an hour job at the most, even with filling and burping the system. Alright, I'll be back with the finished product. Right, something I forgot to mention. Depending on what pump you get, some of them will come with these studs and some of them won't. And if you get one that doesn't have the studs, you want to double nut it like this. You put one wrench on, you put the other wrench on, oops, and then you tighten the nuts against each other. Then you get a pry bar. That's not a pry bar, that's a scraper. You get a pry bar. In between here, take your wrench and spin the studs out. They have Loctite on them, but they're not too bad. These crack loose pretty easy. If they don't crack loose, put some heat to them. Then, you know, whichever one you leave your nuts on last, you take that one, put a little bit of Loctite on it. I use red Loctite, the half decent shit. Put Loctite on it, install it in your new pump. And then you just repeat the process in opposite. Bust them nuts loose, put them on another stud, put them in the pump. Repeat the process until you get all 4 of them in, and make sure you put Loctite on the end that goes into the pump. Don't put them on the end that goes into the fan or you'll just screw yourself. Alright, and then I'll show you the gaskets and everything. We'll put all that shit on before we put everything together, and that way you've seen pretty much the whole process other than the actual work of it. Alright, here we are with the new pump. Before I ever put a gasket on, I put a product on called High Tack. It's like a two-part, or not, I'm sorry, not two-part epoxy, like a contact cement. You put it on, let it tack up, and then you slap your gaskets on. It holds it in place. And any imperfections in the casting, it takes up that space. It fills it in. It's just cheap insurance. And I put it on everything. I even put it on the mating surfaces of the block. But you got to be careful what you put it on. You don't want to get that brush, the applicator brush from the High Tack, all covered in liquid fuck from all the shit that's dripping down the front of this motor. So you get it all tacked up. And like I said, this stuff is like contact cement. Once it tacks up, you take your gasket. Wow, is that hard to do watching through the camera? You get it all lined up. You put it on, push it. It's done. It's not going to fall off. That's like having an extra hand. Whoops, I dropped that bastard in the wrong place. Okay, got that one on. Get it lined up. She's all lined up. Press it into place. And that's it. You put everything back on, put everything back together, you're good to go. And I'm not going to film any of that because you just do everything in the reverse order. If you can't put it back together after you've taken it apart, maybe you shouldn't have taken it apart to begin with. Alright guys, have fun. I hope this helps someone. See you later.